Now, guys, I'm not trying to make anybody live their life in fear with this video, but there's certain things that you just don't do, especially for kids anywhere. Not this is not just in Chicago. This is anywhere in the world. Period. You don't get in anybody's car that you don't know. And matter of fact, even people that you kind of do know, if they're not family or you don't really know them that well, if they're just like your friend's dad or something like that, even then. And I know I sound paranoid, but stuff really happens all the time, man. And when I was a kid, people used to offer us rides. Our parents always told us never do that. So we have a situation where a 15-year-old girl did that, and the worst possible scenario happened, man. So prosecutors are now saying, and she's not named because of her age. She was a South Side Chicago girl, and she accepted a ride from a stranger. This is back in December. Okay, she was drugged, kidnapped, and repeatedly raped by the guy who locked her inside of his basement apartment for 5 months. Okay, now Chicago police eventually freed the girl last week after she found a piece of mail that had the apartment's address, and then she called 911. So she didn't know where she was at, so she couldn't give the police an address. Now, the guy's name is Derek Swift. I'm going to put his picture up here. There's no address listed in the media reports about this, but he's 48 years old. He's been arrested in his life 52 times, okay, and he was detained as a safety risk by Judge Susanna Ortiz. So shout out to her for keeping this guy, because those other two guys that I was telling you guys about that had been trying to lure girls into a van, they were kept on other charges, but it was said that was not a detainable offense. So the girl who spent her 16th birthday in captivity was walking near her Southside home. And by the way, that detainable offense information about that the judge and the prosecutors thought it was not a detainable offense, that actually is incorrect. Even with the Safety Act, they can detain people on those charges. That was a mistake. But the girl, she spent her 16th birthday in captivity. Okay, she was walking near her Southside home in December when Swift pulled up and offered her a ride. Okay, this is according to the Assistant State's Attorney Ann McCord. And this is according to a transcript of his detention hearing. So after initially declining the offer, the girl relented because he kept asking. Okay, now that ain't no reason to relent. If he keeps asking, I'm taking off and running. I mean, if I'm a 15-year-old girl. So he offered it once. She said no. He kept on offering it. She eventually said yes. Really bad move. And I'm going to talk about a lot of other situations, like real life situations that I've seen towards the end of this video. So once she was inside the car, Swift offered her alcohol and pills, but he didn't say what the drugs were. Okay, so the girl again felt pressured, and she took the pills and then lost consciousness. Okay, so I mean, she's just making one like huge mistake after the next. And I'm not saying this to put this on her, but I mean, there are certain safety precautions the kids need to take, and she's not taking any of these. So she woke up naked in the bedroom of Swift's basement apartment, and he allegedly prevented her from leaving. Okay, so according to the government, she remained in that apartment for the following 5 months. CPD issued a missing persons bulletin about the girl 4 weeks after she disappeared. So month after month, Swift came and went from the apartment, bringing her food from a gas station and sometimes leaving her alone for days. He brought alcohol home and made her take more pills. So these are all allegations at this point, but I mean, she was with the guy for 5 months. So, I mean, whatever it is not good. And kidnapping by itself is a charge. I mean, that's a serious charge by itself. But, he basically left her no way to know where she was at because she's locked in the basement. So she didn't know the address because she was unconscious when she was brought there. When she would refuse to take the pills, he would grab her face and shove the pills into her mouth. So the government said the apartment doors each had two locks, but the girl could only open one of the locks. So every time he came back in the apartment, he would rape her. Okay, now on 2 occasions, he forced her to take pregnancy tests. Following her release, a test revealed that she is not currently pregnant. He actually gave the girl a phone, and he used that phone to check on her. But he warned that he would kill her if she tried to leave and would kill anybody that she tried to call. So he searched her phone when he came home to ensure that she had not made any calls. Okay, now this is a little... I don't know what to make of this because, I mean, I don't know how tech savvy she was, or I don't know how well she knew how to use a phone, but there's an easy way to delete any calls that you've made so that it doesn't show that you've made calls. So I don't know. But finally, on April 29th, the girl saw an address on a piece of mail in the apartment and used the phone that Swift gave her to call the police. CBD officers removed her from the apartment and took her to a hospital. A search of the phone showed no call activity other than between the girl and Swift. So Swift surrendered to police hours after officers got her out of the apartment. He allegedly admitted to picking the girl up, although he said that she was 20 years old and claimed that their sexual relationship was consensual. Okay, the assistant public defender representing Swift during the detention hearing said that he initially picked the girl up because he believed that he was giving her a place to stay after she had no other place to live. And this is the public defender said the girl told Swift that she was 20. The government said the girl told him that she was 16. And so the government was arguing regardless of whether he thought that she was 16, 26, or 46. It is irrelevant because the age is not an element relevant to the charges filed against Swift, including criminal sexual assault by force and kidnapping. And that's true. Now, when I was working as a substitute teacher, I would have these girls in class, and then I would see them like outside of school, on the block or whatever, telling guys that they were 18. And I knew for a fact that they were not 18 because I had them in class. I knew they were like 16. That here is irrelevant. Even if she told them she was 16, 16 is still under the legal age. And whether or not she was under or over the legal age, as the government is saying, it doesn't matter because kidnapping and raping somebody is still a crime, regardless of their age. It's worse if they're younger, but it's still a big crime. So anyways, the public defender also questioned why the girl did not call anyone sooner or leave the apartment. And so the government responded to that. It is important when the police come, she says, that she tells them that she tried to leave twice. The first time he caught her and stood over her with an open hand and struck her across her face. The second attempt, he forcibly pushed her body against the wall. She did not believe that she had a way out. So, we got to remember, guys, you guys may be thinking of a lot of obvious stuff that she could have done. And there is a lot of stuff she could have done. But you got to remember, this is a 15-year-old girl, okay, who didn't know where she was at. She hasn't seen all the situations like this that us older folks have seen and, what people did and stuff. There's been a lot of famous cases like this. But typically, the kidnapped victims are younger. Okay, an older person probably would have known certain things they could have done. But anyways, they said she's now a child who has been in this basement, fed pills, raped every day, and threatened that he would kill her. Threatened that he would kill her loved ones. She didn't say anything, but how can she? She's a child. She is a child who was being traumatized in the most unimaginable way. So that's according to the government. Parents, friends, everybody. If kids have not been educated on this is one of the main things they need to be educated on. Like I said, when we were kids, guys would, come by, offer us rides. That backpack looks heavy. I'll give you a ride home. These are people we didn't even know. And we would always turn it down because our parents had pounded it into our heads. You never, ever take a ride from strangers. And if they try to, they would come by, I lost my cat. Can you come and help me look for my cat? And, this is all stuff you just don't go for, ever. When it comes to, can you come over here? I got some food in the van. I got some candy in the van for you. If you're a kid, we were told, don't talk to strangers, period. Just don't talk to them. Don't do anything they tell you to do. Don't go over by them. Don't go with them anywhere. Just ignore them. Don't talk to them. Keep walking and dip. Now, this is tricky sometimes because, it depends on the demographic. If we're talking about, an old lady, moving down the street with a walker, and she says, hey, how you doing? So, that type of stranger, obviously, you can talk to. But, if it's like a grown man and you're a young girl, okay, you're not talking to this dude, period. This is for all the kids out there, all the teenagers, for any reason whatsoever. Just ignore them, dip. Because we're living in a city full of killers, predators, rapists, all type of stuff, man. And a world full of that stuff, not just Chicago. This advice that I'm saying is not just for the city. Is everywhere. All the kids need to hear this because not everybody has parents. We got a lot of orphans in CPS that have never had parents to tell them this stuff. So definitely never. Now, As far as the stuff that she could have done when she was in captivity, okay, a lot of you guys have probably already thought about this. If she knew it, this is the most obvious one. If she knew anybody that she could have called, I mean, he had given her a phone, which, I mean, on his part, that was like legal suicide because, I mean, if she knew anybody that she could have called, she didn't have an address to give to the police, but if she knew any family members or anything like that, you just call them and then delete the call from the phone. You know, text them and then delete the text messages. You know, do whatever you got to do if she knew their numbers. But again, without an address, that would have been a little tough, except that phones have a GPS location. You know, most smartphones, I'm assuming this was a smartphone, they have a GPS location device on every smartphone, right? I mean, this is one of the things that like police use to arrest people. The pings off of the cell phone towers at these phones. I don't know if she knew about this. You know, I don't know how many 15-year-olds know about this technology, but I think most in Chicago do because the killers know that you always turn your cell phone off, you know, when you're out going to do a crime or whatever, because it's going to show where you're at. And after, even if okay, you don't get caught right away or whatever, if they eventually get you and get your phone, they can get a warrant. I'm talking about the police to give to the cell phone company. Okay, and then the cell phone company can provide them with the data of where exactly that cell phone was at every moment. So they can easily find where you're at if you have a cell phone, even if you don't have an address. Okay, so and this is local police, federal, everything. Okay, so she could have just called 911, you know, and then it would have been over. Like after the first day, as soon as he gave her that phone, this whole episode could have been over if she had known that. Okay, so for all the kids, but let's assume for a second that she didn't have a phone. Okay, she couldn't get out of she could only open one of the locks. Now, I'm assuming possibly that the other lock was locked from the outside of wherever she was being held, and that there were probably no windows where she was at. Okay, this is something that I did one time, and I'm not going to tell you guys the situation that got me into this, but I was locked inside of this. It was a bathroom, okay? It was locked from the outside. I couldn't get out, okay? Now, the thing was made out of wood. The wood was made out of like several panels, okay? And I just kept on kicking the bottom panel. I mean, most of these doors, I don't know if the door was metal, but I don't think most basement doors in most residential homes in Chicago are made out of metal. So if it's made out of wood, you can easily bust that. I mean, even a 15-year-old girl like repeatedly kicking that, or you know, taking any sharp pointed object in the vicinity, and then just repeatedly like kicking that, applying pressure to that, will eventually bust the wood. I mean, if it's wood, you can bust through that. But anyways, so I busted through that and got out of there. That got me even worse trouble, but that's a whole other story. As long as we're going on this topic, and I'm glad the girl is okay now. Okay, although she's obviously been through a ton of trauma, but this is one thing I want to say because most rapes don't happen like this. I mean, this does happen, and it's like a horror story. But most rapes happen between people who know each other. Okay, the girl knows the guy, and it could be like a friend of the family or a boyfriend, or like a lot of these happen in college settings. Both people may be intoxicated or whatever, and the girl gets raped by some guys that she kind of knows. Most people out there, man, guys and girls, are way too trusting. It's conventional wisdom, like never to put yourself in a situation where you're alone with this person. Now, I mean, a lot of these teens, let's be honest, I mean, they're linking up to have sex, so at some point they're going to be alone with them. And there's nothing you can tell these teens to, convince them not to do that. Like, they're going to do what they're going to do. But, I mean, that's how the stuff happens. I mean, it does. There was a girl, I'm not going to say her name. Some of you guys may know her, actually, on this channel because of where she works. But she's not a girl anymore. She's in her 30s, but she was in college and she was telling me, I met this guy. He's really cool. He's really nice. I'd be going over to his dorm. And I told her, I was like, she was 18 at the time. I was like, I don't think it's a good idea if you'd be going to his dorm alone. Now, I didn't know the guy, but she's like, oh, he's a really nice guy. I said, okay, I can't tell you what to do. My conscience is clear because I warned you now. I don't think it's a good idea if you'd be going to his dorm alone. Yeah, well, about a month later, she just suddenly stopped talking about the guy completely. And I found out about probably, I don't know how long it was, maybe like a year after that, exactly what I thought was going to happen happened. Okay, he held her arms down. He raped her in that place, in his dorm room at the college. I think it's something like 1 in 4 girls in college gets raped. Okay, and they're just out there like trusting these dudes. They're attracted to the guys or whatever. They want to be alone with them. But a lot of times, the guy, especially if he's intoxicated off something on college campus or whatever, he doesn't even like. It's just like those desires just they're not put in check by anything. His mental capacities are diminished by the drugs that he's on, and then it's like that stuff is just let loose, and it turns the dude into an animal. So that's why I say never trust anybody, man. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section, though, man. Thankfully, the girl is still alive. And when two people, especially two young people, are alone, it's like that passion is kindled, man, and there's no other set of eyes on them to keep that in check. This is a story from about 22 years ago. I was in college, man, and I had gotten to know this Muslim girl, okay, and she was a Palestinian. She was Palestinian. She wore like the full hijab from head to toe. She was very devout Muslim. So we got to know each other like debating religion. Okay, we had this class together, and we started like debate. It was really arguing, but we were like debating religion, and we were sharing like a lot of very personal stuff when we were in the process of like this debate. So we were talking all the time, like emailing each other, about this. And one day she was going to go to church with me, okay, like just to go check it out. So I offered her a ride. Okay, now we had both said like before this, okay, there's no like romantic thing going on here. Like we're not going to do that. I told her like I would never marry a Muslim. She told me like she would never marry a Christian. So it was like we were totally like set from the start. We're not going to get into that. But she was more aware than I was about human nature. I'll say that. Okay, so I was gonna give her a ride. She was gonna go come to church with me this one time, and I told her I was like, I'll give you a ride. She said, no, I can't ride with you. And at first I was kind of hurt. I was like, man, you don't trust me or something like you think I'm a bad guy? I'm gonna do something? And she said, no. She says we got this saying. She said, when two people are alone, the devil's the third person in the room. And instantly I was like, you're speaking facts. I was like, I apologize to her. I'm like, you're speaking facts. Because she understood that sometimes people don't even plan on that stuff, man. Like the girl was very beautiful. I mean, she was gorgeous, man. Like there were older guys. She was 19. There were older guys in their 30s, like Muslim guys, doctors and stuff, like asking her to marry them. She was very pretty, and she understood. Those passions sometimes can like take a person over and make them do stuff that they don't think they would ever do. I mean, she really understood that. And that's something I never forgot. And I took a lesson from that and, try not to put myself in those situations. Because I had a bad experience too. When I was 18, I've talked about before on the channel, it was an older woman in the car. I won't go into that again, but that type of stuff happens, man. That type of thing, it happens too much, man. It's Boy Chicago News. I'm out.